Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Elliott Wave analysis. In today's video, we're going to be continuing off from where we last stood and discuss the aftermath of that drop that we observed in the past few days. More importantly, we're going to be discussing about what is increasing and decreasing in probabilities, so please make sure to watch this video thoroughly. Now, if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that like button. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much. To quickly recap, we were discussing over and over about the possibility of a local top coming into play, no matter what degree you were looking at. Lo and behold, we got a violent 15% move to the downside, and we're now just kind of stalling at the regional lows, which is, of course, to be expected at high-level demand zones. Now, that we got the drop, are we looking for further levels to the downside? Well, we are kind of in a limbo here. It's all going to be dependent on how we view the degrees, and we're still boiled down to essentially the same two scenarios, and they are now working in two different degrees and also working in a bit of a different timeline. So the first idea we're going to start off with was the possibility of this flat idea coming into play. Now, for those that are new to the Elliott Wave Theory or need a quick refresher, the flat idea is comprised of three different variations, which is the normal or the regular flat idea, the expanded flat idea, and the rounding flat variation. We can eliminate the normal flat variation because previously we assumed that we were going to get rejected around the 123.6 or the 138.2% zone, which automatically put us into the rounding or expanded flat idea anyways because of their higher statistical hit rate. Since we did not create a technical low, however, beyond the previous wave A, it's still a technical running flat. Again, this is unfortunate because we now have to work with a less probable flat variation pattern. This variation is less probable and less frequent because it suggests a strong counter trend move followed by a weaker continuation of the previous trend. And although we are observing a possible technical completion of a running flat, it just seems a little off that we created such an extreme wave B and not being able to terminate beyond the wave A. Since we came so low, I would have expected this to be breaking. Given that reason alone, although valid, it raises the question on whether this is going to be playing out or not as a running flat. So the next move will determine everything, even though it is still technically valid. But what about the expanded flat idea? Can we still achieve that from our original idea? Well, we have a problem here as well. I would have found much more conviction in this idea of us still working in a lower degree wave 4 in the mini degree of the green, and give a temporary bullish outlook for the bulls for creating one more high if we were able to break below this. Now, again, we can still create it, but I just haven't. I'm finding a little bit difficulty since we did create such a bounce here. So that's going to give us a little bit of a different outlook in the coming days. But I would have liked to see this break below, and then we could have continued for one more possible high. Either way, we have completed most of the move to the downside, and we now have to kind of continue back and forth on whether this is going to be working lower or not. Not only because expanded flats are more common in the markets, but because they reflect the complexity and the unpredictability of the market movements. And we also had a perfect opportunity to do so, to continue a great look for that impulse that we were looking for. And it just didn't follow through. We just stayed above this previous low, and that not breaking, it gives us still that technical rare rounding flat idea. And because we've already retraced so close to that invalidation level of the running flat idea, it already reduces the idea for this running flat idea. So essentially breaking that low would have not only validated the higher probability of the expanded variation that we were looking for, but would have also given me far higher conviction that we'd be working for higher levels before working for that larger wave 4 pullback, maybe giving a little bit more opportunity for people to take profits. But that doesn't mean we are not out of the woods just yet. For bears, we could still technically be in that flat idea since the idea is there as a running flat. The validation is all we need. And how do we validate this? Lower probability running flat variation to continue. We really need impulse off the lows here to continue this fifth wave. So that is the only way that we're going to be continuing it. Do we have that? Not necessarily, because if we zoom in, it's still working quite correctively to the upside. This move here off the lows, although this did look impulsive, this move here being rejected once again, it is working correctively. So this does seem like an ABC to the upside with the current data given. So does that mean the running flat idea is still in play? Yes, but is it higher in probability? we have to kind of wait, because the only mode of correction going forward is a possible diagonal variation if this is working correctly, and that would be the wave 1, and then we get that pullback for 2, and then 3, 4, 5 to follow suit respectively for that wave 5, and that would be really the only way without trying to force any of the counts going forward. So what does that mean? That puts us into the second idea as the higher probability, where we could be working for deeper levels, and that's just how it is. It's a bit unfortunate because I would have been more bullish if we did come down, like I said, create a new price extreme for that wave C, for that expanded flat idea, which was even the higher probability of a flat. We had all of the opportunities to do so for that one last chance to create one more high. So that puts us to this idea where we originally had this wave 3 at a higher level after that flat idea to now terminate at this current top here, which is this idea here, where we're now looking for this to be the actionary wave going into that wave A, and now we're working for a wave B, and then follow suit as a wave C to the downside for deeper level wave, and that will be putting us in a simple zigzag as the minimum expectation for this wave 4 to play out. Now it can turn into any corrective pattern for this wave 4, but again, since we are trying to observe and trying to apply the idea of alternation guideline, since wave 1 and 2 was sideways, we are now expecting this wave 4 to be sharp, and this idea is already starting to show that characteristic of a sharp wave 4 where people were taking profits accordingly. We also observed the idea of alternation pretty much immaculately perfect for the current extension that we observed for this wave 3. We had a sub-minuto degree rather, as a sharp wave 1-2. We had a sideways 3-4 as a triangle. We had the primary degree as a sharp 1-2, and we observed a sideways wave 3-4 of the primary degree. So we had a very almost perfect kind of impulse structure, if you ask me, because if you look at it and you kind of look at the wave structures, this is how exactly you want to be looking at some kind of textbook Elliott wave structure when you're looking at extensions and on the overall look for how an impulse should be playing out. So that's that, and now we're just kind of observing whether on this is going to be an ABC to the downside or some kind of complex correction that we're not able to identify at the current time of recording. But for now, since we did observe a sharp move to the downside, this does seem impulsive in nature, and right now, whether this wave B is in and we are working for one more move to the downside for that wave C, we could also technically work for wave B, one more move to the upside for that wave B. And if you look at it on the shorter time frames, like I said, the move up did look 3-wave-ish more than an impulse in itself. If it continued up impulsively, then of course we could say that the running flat idea would have a little bit more say, but for now it is looking a little bit more corrective than anything else. So if this was a 3-wave off the lows, this would put us into a wave W, this would put us into a wave X, on however this plays out over the weekend, and then we would expect another ABC to the upside to complete this overall B wave as a WXY. And again, we would kind of assume, just based on Fibonacci levels, to be rejected at the normal Fibonacci level of the 61.8%, because that is the golden zone, and then the 78.6 as the maximum level for wave B. So this wave B can technically go all the way up to 104K, and then another rejection would be coming into play. So overall, the expectation for me at this current time of recording would be, with the current data given, that we're going to be working for a deeper wave 4, and that should bring us at the very minimum expectation around the 85 to the 86K levels, where the 100% level is, based on just this Fibonacci level. This level doesn't have to be it, just depends on how far it moves up. We could really essentially be working even lower depending on how this B wave gets rejected, depending on what Fibonacci level, and then that's how we're going to be looking at it going forward. And then finally, ladies and gentlemen, that is where I would assume that we're going to have the biggest alt season coming to date, and I think that's why a lot of altcoins right now have seen such a drawdown during this move here, on this initial move. I've already given my outlook on how to trade these altcoins. You do not want to be in altcoins during the actionary waves, and that's exactly what we're getting. And the characteristic of this B wave, we're seeing a bounce on altcoins right now as we speak, but you definitely, most definitely don't want to be in altcoins on this wave C to the downside. You most definitely want to be getting in on this accumulation 1-2s being created at the assumed bottom of this wave 4, and once we're starting to create this confident outlook for Bitcoin, you want to be getting into altcoins at that time, and that's when we're going to be expecting a massive alt season. And that's when, in my opinion, depending on how this wave 5 is going to be extended, that's for a later date, and again, that's when we're going to have that larger 1-2 pullback, in my opinion, as a possible at least the beginning of correction of a larger move to the downside after this move completes as an impulse, because that's the only way I can look at it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, of course, there are a lot of other ways we can look at it. We can assume that we're in a series of 1-2s on the macro, but for now, I do still like to believe that we are working in a 1-2, 1-2 structure, the expansion phase rather, that we're in a larger wave 3, 4, and then 5 to the upside that's going to be completing, and we're going to be working for a much larger correction. So this is not a time to be screwing around, ladies and gentlemen. You really want to be careful. Think about where you're positioned, how you're positioned in the cryptocurrency markets. You want to be looking for how to maximize your positions as best as you can, but most importantly, securing your profits and also securing your capital. Right now is not the time to be messing around with Bitcoin, assuming where it's going to be, rejecting, where it's going to be going up, because we've already done most of the work here. We've already assumed, I've been talking about it for months, ladies and gentlemen, that you should have been accumulating Bitcoin over here. You should be taking profits accordingly. I've talked about where I was taking profits on my social media, on X. If you're not following me on social media, please do give me a follow there as well. Links in the description below. And most importantly, we do discuss this in the Discord membership about each and every single wave. I do have wave counts for how this is a completed impulse in itself. If you're not following me on Discord, or you would like to join the Discord membership, the link is also in the description below. Please feel free to not hesitate to contact me on there as well. We also have Patreon. There's a lot of ways you can get access to how I'm viewing the market specifically, but from an overall general perspective, this is how I'm going to be kind of expecting it. Things can change, of course. We could be looking for higher. I mean, of course, if it works for an impulse to the upside, the only resorted count is the rare expanded flat idea where we're just moving up impulsively. But right now, I don't want to force anything. I just want to work with what we have in terms of the wave counts. So that's how I'm going to conclude this video. Thank you very much. Hopefully that was helpful. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video during the week. Have a fantastic rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.